The famed pollster and strategist Frank Luntz, CEO of FIL Inc., whom we always turn to when we need to understand what happened in an election. So, Frank, give us, first of all, the Pennsylvania Republican primary. What did we learn from that, if anything?
Well, we learned that Donald Trump is still essential, that he is the #1 force within the GOP. When he endorses, it has an impact. But we also saw that it doesn't necessarily carry you all the way through in every state. For example, the most Trumpian member of Congress, Madison Cawthorn, in North Carolina, lost his primary narrowly. As you viewers will remember, the congressman had said some very controversial accusations against other Republicans, and he was himself not everyone's cup of tea. In other places, in other races in North Carolina, which is one I've been following, the Trump-endorsed candidate won overwhelmingly against the former governor. And when you endorse a congressional candidate against a former governor, that's having an impact. So Trump moves numbers. He moves and changes outcomes, but it varies by state. Another race I was watching was the lieutenant governor in Idaho was challenging the governor, also had a Trump endorsement. And in that case, the governor got reelected. So I still believe that Donald Trump is the most major force, is the most significant, but he can't win in every state and every race.
And this is winning primaries. Do we have any sense of what it means for the general?
Yes, I do. And actually, for as good as Trump is in winning primaries, he is as bad in winning generals. And what the Republicans are going to have to face in a place like Pennsylvania is that he's gold in a Republican electorate. But when you move to Democrats and independents, Donald Trump is very disliked, and he will actually cost votes in the general election. It's an equation that a lot of Republicans have to decide as they seek his endorsement.
Let's talk also for a moment about some of the governor's races, particularly in Pennsylvania, because one of the big issues are people, I've just seen this term now, election deniers. That is to say, the 2020 election was not properly decided. There was something illegitimate in it. We have now on the Republican side a candidate for governor who both denies the outcome in 2020, but also says he would like to re-register every voter in the state of Pennsylvania. Commonwealth, I should say, Pennsylvania.
First off, that's expensive. I mean, who's going to pay for it? And secondly, voters traditionally, and I apologize, but I'm speaking to you from the Houses of Parliament, and it is very loud here.
Well, I hope Parliament's okay there behind you. I'm worried about them.
Well, I think they're doing just fine. And if they're being taken away, then I think voters would be pretty happy with it. There's the same kind of frustration in the UK that we have in the US. The issue in the end is whether you're looking forward or looking backward. And voters traditionally, by about 3-to-1, are choosing candidates based on what they're going to do for them versus what they have done either against them in the past. And so I don't think that this is a constructive campaign theme for any candidate to be arguing about what happened in 2020 other than in a Republican primary.
Frank, I don't want to let you go without talking about what's going on in the state of New York with the redistricting, because it seems to be pretty much of a mess on the Democrat side. They had what some people called a gerrymandered plan to sort of gain some seats. It's been thrown out now. Now they're in the last stages, and they're really going after each other. They're almost eating their own. What is happening here? This
could determine who controls the House. Because up to this point, even though Republican states won electoral votes and they added congressional seats, the places where it was added was in urban areas, which are Democratic areas. So as you look at the count, actually, Democrats got a 3 or 4 seat advantage in redistricting when all is said and done. New York changes that. The initial maps were absolutely brutal for the Republicans. They were thrown out for gerrymandering, as they should have been. And now the new maps are actually beneficial to the GOP rather than the Democrats. You could see a 4 or even 5 seat swing because of the old maps being thrown out and the new maps being adopted. And I'm not surprised, because right now there are half a dozen congressmen, including 2 committee chairmen, that are going to go up against each other. And this is for control of the United States House of Representatives. I think the rest of this week is going to be brutal politically.
So, Frank, for some of us who are not as versed in this as you are, we take a look at it right now and say the Democrats are going to have a tough time in November anyway. Right now, they don't seem to be heading in the right direction. Play it from your point of view, because you talk to so many voters all the time. Is there anything the Democrats could do right now to turn this thing around?
Yes, they have to focus on results. They have to acknowledge that inflation is what it is, and they actually have to have those elements of policy that can impact people. So we had, for example, the Biden administration infrastructure plan, which passed in a bipartisan fashion. He has to be able to show that within the first year, you have a meaningful, measurable difference in the lives of people from across the country. Otherwise, people are going to complain about inflation. They're going to complain about crime. They're going to complain about immigration. And those issues are really bothering people in their day-to-day lives. And frankly, I would not want to be a Democratic strategist right now, because you're going to have to explain to people, be patient. And when you're having trouble making ends meet, when you're having trouble putting gas in your gas tank, you're not for delaying. You want change. You want your life to be better right now.
One last quick one, Frank. Is blaming it all on Putin going to work?
No, you have to be candid with people. And this is where Joe Biden used to have a great reputation as someone who was a centrist, as someone who believed in common sense and responsible government. Quite frankly, the left of the Democratic Party has made his job much more difficult. And I actually think that the left of the Democratic Party could cost them the House and even possibly the Senate.
Frank, so great to get to talk to you from the Houses of Parliament. That's a special treat. Thank you so much to Frank Luntz, that famed pollster. He is the head of FIL Inc.